For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, good morning. It is Wednesday, so that means it is time for the Ageless Blueprint. And I am Dr. Taylor, the hormone doctor and the spiritual MD. And today we are going to talk about, I was so glad we had these two episodes with our guests. Now, I actually will have a guest next week also. And let me just change this. I'm going to have a guest next week also. But today, we're going to continue our battle against hormone confusion. So today, we're going to try and break up. We're going to bust the myths that I think are propagating hormone confusion. And I hear them all the time when I'm on social media, the questions. I know they have been influenced by these myths. So there's 10 big myths that I want to kind of eliminate. And I want you, whoever's listening, whoever's going to listen, to study these myths, remember them, and maybe you can help someone else who has hormone confusion, and you can help to bust these myths so that we can get the truth out about hormones so that we can end this confusion, because I'm telling you, it's bad. Okay, I see it all the time in my office when I'm on social media, the direct messages that I get. They're all trying to understand and figure out what is going on with their hormones because they know something has shifted. So today we're going to try and bust those 10 myths, and we're going to start here with our slides, and we're going to go through it. And I want you to really, like, even if you have to take a picture of the slides, I don't know what you need to do, but I really want to put this in your brain, because what I know is that people need to hear things 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different times when they've heard something for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. You can't just say it once. In order to rewire the brain, that's what I'm learning, you have to hear it over and over again. And so I've done this probably 4 or 5 times, and every time I talk about these myths. So the 10 myths that keep hormone confusion alive. And this is what I want you to remember. I had a patient come in and she said, wrong test, wrong hormones. I'm like, okay, that is the message. The reason why you're confused is because they've been doing the wrong test. And so therefore you have been getting the wrong hormones. And therefore you have been getting an outcome that you don't want. And that's the key. All right. So if you don't do the right test, you don't see the patterns that I see. Is that I see disrupted cortisol all the time. I see progesterone, estrogen imbalance all the time. But when you look in the blood, you don't see any of that. It all looks normal. And I know you've been told over and over again, your blood tests look normal. And that's because in the blood, the hormones are normal, like they're supposed to be. But in your tissue, they can be out of balance. So remember, if you get the wrong test, you will get the wrong answer, and you will get the wrong treatment. Okay. And sometimes the wrong treatment doesn't show up when you initially start the hormones, but as time goes on, your body starts to realize, hey, I'm out of balance. And then other things start to happen. So that's what you need to remember. Even though you may get an initial boost from testosterone or estrogen, over time, women will say, oh, yeah, after 5 or 6 months, I gained 20 pounds. And then I started having chin hair and I started losing my hair. That is the buildup of the hormone. Even though you didn't change the dose, it can build up. So anyway, let's get started. So you do not have 15 problems. I have a whiteboard and I list all of these symptoms that women come in with, and even men. And all of them boil down to 2 things: wrong test, wrong hormones. It all boils down to that. So you don't have 15 problems. People come in and have anxiety. I see people all the time with iron infusions because they're having heavy cycles, weight issues, low libido. They have depression. If you saw our videos with our guests, they all had the same story. 2 people totally different backgrounds, totally different, didn't know each other. They have the exact same story. And I hear the same story. I've been hearing the same story in my office for 25 years. And the story started with my wife. She had all of these symptoms. I was doing the wrong test. And look, I will tell you that we didn't even draw blood because we knew it wasn't going to tell us anything. So the 15 problems, it started with my wife. And so therefore, we had to learn something. We had to figure something out. And so that's what I'm saying. You don't have 15 problems. You have two problems. Wrong test, wrong hormones. That is always the answer. That's the end of the confusion. Why am I confused? Oh, I got the wrong test. That's why I got the wrong hormones. That's why I got 20-pound weight gain. That's why my chin hair is coming in and my hair on my head is falling out. I have been relying on the wrong test. And this is another core mistake. Women are taught to focus on certain hormones while most critical ones are completely ignored. So there's been a big explosion of these women on estrogen and testosterone pellets. There's a company that's been pushing it and pushing it, and they've done a good job because I see them all the time. And I won't say all the time, but there are a majority of women that after a certain point, the hormones build up. They say, I gained 20 pounds. My hair fell out. I just had two patients the other day when we were in the office said the exact same thing. So I was talking to someone and I said, this is what happens when you have too much estrogen. And she said, everything you said, I have. I've gained the 20 pounds. I can't get it off. I'm intermittent fasting. You cannot diet and exercise your way past a hormone problem. And so estrogen is, we'll talk about it, but estrogen stores fat. So the key thing is you can't focus on estrogen and testosterone. What we really need to focus on is progesterone, cortisol, how stress is affecting everything. That's why we wrote those two books. One is, are your hormones making you sick? And the other one is the stress connection, because stress physiology, it influences everything. So that's what we have to be concerned about. I will tell you, if you walk into my office and you have all of these symptoms, we are going to do the right test and then we get the right answers. And it's easy to see the pattern. All right. So we're going to change our focus. Stop focusing on estrogen and testosterone. And I want you to understand what progesterone and cortisol can do for you. All right. So what is the right, if and I know I hear it all the time. People tell me, oh, my blood value said this. And I tell them it means absolutely nothing because it's the wrong test. If you are premenopausal, okay, if you haven't gone through menopause yet, if you look in the blood, it's going to always look like it's in the normal range. Okay. If you're postmenopausal, because the blood only sees what's coming from the ovary, it doesn't see where estrogen is coming from. If you use a cream or a pill, it doesn't see it. Okay. So the right test is saliva hormone testing because hormones act in the tissue, not just in blood. Saliva catches what is biologically active at the cellular level. So, right hormones are progesterone and cortisol. The hormones most commonly overlooked are most commonly responsible for the full symptom picture. So, the hormones that we are ignoring are the hormones that are causing the problem. And that's what we've been focusing on for 20 to 25 years. And we know that is the right solution to end hormone confusion. And that's why we're so passionate and adamant about getting this out, because this is a problem for women and for men. So the right pattern, you balance over isolation. You're not worried about what the blood level is what is the balance in the tissue. That's where the action is. It's not in the blood. Okay. So now we know the reason why we've had the problem is that we've done the wrong test. Therefore, we've gotten the wrong hormones. Therefore, we have gotten the outcome that we don't desire, that you don't desire. So let me tell you why people keep doing the same thing and thinking something different is going to happen. Okay. Because myth number one, menopause means you have no estrogen. I hear it all over the social media. Oh, estrogen this, estrogen that. You have low estrogen. You have low estrogen coming from your ovary. But I'm going to show you there's another place where you can get estrogen. It's in the fat tissue. All right. Estrogen is often fluctuating. So now estrogen does fluctuate. All right. Especially in perimenopause, because sometimes you ovulate, sometimes you don't. And the key is that in perimenopause, when you don't ovulate, you really have too much estrogen in perimenopause, not too little. Okay, so that's what you need to understand. And you don't know that if you don't do the right test. If you do the right test, you will see that low estrogen is not your issue. It will show up in the saliva test. All right. Myth number two, you think that blood testing tells you the full story. Everybody tells me, okay, I'm getting my routine labs done. I got a full panel. They did my estrogen, progesterone, and everything looks fine. They're doing the wrong test. Okay, they're doing the wrong test. Okay, your labs are normal. Blood test measures circulating hormone levels, not what hormones are actually doing inside your tissue. So you get this lab test that says everything's normal, and everything is normal in your blood. The doctor's not lying to you. It looks normal in the blood. All right, but you know you still can't sleep. You know you're gaining weight. You know you still feel anxious. You know you're losing focus, and you know you're emotionally unstable. And this is just the beginning of the symptoms that we're talking about. So that is the frustration. And I will tell you there's frustration both ways. There's frustration from the doctors because they want to help you, but they are not getting the information so they can help you. You're frustrated because you're expecting the doctor to help you and you feel like you're not being heard because you keep telling the doctor you still have all these symptoms. And then what happens is you do trial and error. You start guessing because the information in the blood work doesn't tell you anything. So you start giving estrogen. They say they gained 20 pounds. You look in the blood. They say, well, it couldn't be because your estrogen level is not elevated. Well, it's all in the tissue. That is the confusion. Okay. So I'm telling you, doctors are confused. How do I know? Because I hear from doctors and they hear this and they say, I have never heard this before. And let me tell you, your doctor is not lying because I had never heard of this after I finished my residency in OBGYN at Emory University. I was taught these same myths that that menopause is an estrogen deficiency condition. I was taught that, but that was 35 years ago. Okay? That was 35 years ago. And I'm not telling you that I'm teaching some new discovery. This is basic physiology that has been around for thousands of years. That's why call it an ageless blueprint, because this is basic physiology. All right. So let's see. This is myth number three. And this is, I really want to drive this home because women are getting testosterone and they're told that it's going to give them energy. And it might do that for the first month or two. But then eventually testosterone is going to do what it does. It's going to start masculinizing you. That means making you grow hair where you don't want it and losing hair where you do want it. Okay. It can also give you acne. It can make you become aggressive if it's too high. So women are exhausted. Chronic fatigue driven by nervous system overload is not a testosterone deficiency. This is over here to the right. These are your kidneys, and there's this thing called an adrenal gland. That means it's above the renal gland, the kidney. But anyway, it is what produces cortisol in a daily rhythm. And that is the problem, this circadian rhythm that goes based on the sunlight and the moon and all these things. You have a rhythm. And when you're stressed, that rhythm gets disrupted. So the body has shifted into survival mode, suppressing recovery hormones. So the reason why you're tired is because your cortisol has been suppressed, not because your testosterone has been suppressed. This is a minor hormone in women. And here's what I will tell you. I don't care where you are in life. In a woman, your testosterone will always be low. And so just because it's low and is normal, it should be low because I believe the testosterone for women is for muscle mass more than it is for libido. It's more for libido in men. But anyway, the cortisol is the issue. So you're sleep deprived. Poor sleep destroys hormonal rhythm and amplifies every symptom. When your cortisol is disrupted, you're tired during the day and you're wired and you can't sleep at night. You wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because your cortisol is elevated at night and is low in the morning. Now, that is the real issue. Testosterone may give you some relief on a short-term basis, but you really need to correct your cortisol. There's a progesterone deficit. The calming restorative hormone is depleted, leaving the nervous system raw, because when your cortisol is disrupted, your reproductive system is disrupted. So your ovulation is disrupted. And if you don't ovulate, you don't make progesterone. So women do not need testosterone for energy. They need their cortisol rhythm tested and corrected. That is what you really need. This is another one that I learned in medical school that keeps people confused. You don't need progesterone if you don't have a uterus, and I want to go through this step by step so you can understand this. The reason why this was thought to be true is because early on in the 1960s, when they started giving people estrogen, they saw that estrogen alone increased endometrial cancer or uterine cancer. So instead of trying to have a better test or figure out what's going on, they said, let's make a new drug that will control the bleeding that we've caused by giving people too much estrogen. So they came up with Provera or Depo-Provera, which is not really progesterone. So because they thought that the only reason why you needed progesterone was to stop the bleeding caused by too much estrogen, they said, if you don't have a uterus, you don't need progesterone. You don't need Depo-Provera. You don't need a progestin, which is a derivative of progesterone to make it be better at stopping bleeding. But progesterone alone will do it. Okay. So you do need progesterone. Why? Because progesterone is neuroprotective. That means it protects your brain. Did you know that most dementia patients are women? And you need to think that if they're women, could it be a hormonal issue? Could it be a lack of the neuroprotective effect of progesterone throughout life? And that's just a theory. So I'm not saying anything, but dementia is increased in women. So anxiety and emotional regulation acts as a natural anxiolytic. That means it's like Ativan, all right? It calms the nervous system from within. So it's a natural anti-anxiolytic. It's a natural antidepressive. It's a natural anti-anxiety medicine. It improves sleep quality. Now, this is important in brain function. That's why I'm saying you need to sleep. If you're worried about maintaining your cognitive function, and I'm adamant about making sure I have enough sleep, progesterone promotes deep sleep. Most of the women who come in our office come in because they're gaining weight and they can't sleep. It's always a progesterone problem or a cortisol problem. I'm telling you, you can always download it, or you can always downgrade it to two problems. You had the wrong test, you got the wrong hormones. And is stress buffering. Progesterone modulates cortisol and supports nervous system recovery after stress. Why does it do that? Because it helps you to sleep. It lowers your anxiety. It protects your brain. So unless when they did your operation to remove your uterus, they removed your brain and your cardiovascular system is affected by progesterone, your gut, everything. So you do need progesterone. I don't care if you're 90, if you have too much estrogen, you need progesterone. I just saw a lady 75 years old, she's got breast cancer. It's estrogen receptor positive. That means it's stimulated by estrogen. And her saliva test shows she was estrogen dominant. I told her, first thing we got to do is balance your hormones. Stop letting estrogen increase this growth. She needs progesterone to help her with her cancer at 75 years old. All right, so that's the importance. Do we have any questions yet, Rebel? Well, I know I've gone through a lot, so I'm up to myth number 5. So I have any questions yet?
Oh, we had a question about if you have your uterus removed, if you have your organs, internal things that
Mhm.
pertain to women, do you still have hormones?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. So you, even though they've removed your uterus, I'm going to show you where your hormones come from. So let's go there. All right. So, well, I have a couple. I'm going to get to that. Where do your hormones come from if they removed your organs? And I'm going to show you it's from your fat tissue, but we'll get to that. So hot flashes are only about estrogen, and that's not true. Hot flashes are far more complex than a simple estrogen story. They are often stress events happening throughout a hormonal environment. So when your hormones are out of balance or just tinkering in balance, certain stressors can cause you to have hot flashes. A lot of women will say, I don't have hot flashes unless I eat something with sugar or wine. So that is alcohol turns into sugar. So sugar, because your body, let me go through this. All right. Disrupted cortisol rhythm patterns trigger temperature dysregulation throughout the day and night. Adrenaline surges, sudden adrenaline spikes, not just estrogen drops, ignite the heat response. An overlooked nervous system loses its ability to regulate body temperature. Blood sugar dysregulation. That's why they say sugar and wine will usually do it. It has the glucose crashes that triggers an adrenaline release, a hidden driver of hot flashes. So it's just because your hormones are so tinkering of imbalance and out of balance, you add one more stressor and now the hot flash comes. So that's why certain things that women will do. But here's what happens: when we get your hormones more stable and balanced, then these triggers aren't nearly as effective. They don't trigger the hot flashes like they used to. So it's all about maintaining a stable balance, and that balances out everything else. All right. So people were asking, hey, if they removed your organs, do you still make hormones? So let me tell you how that happens. All right. So that weight gain that happens at or around menopause, it is not just because you're getting old. Okay. The pattern begins with stress, but the body's own biology creates a self-reinforcing cycle that has nothing to do with willpower. So uh, again, had a lady yesterday said, got put on estrogen and I gained 20 pounds. Looked at the hormones, they told me everything was normal. I just needed to intermittent fast. And she said, hey, not 1 pound has gone off. Let me tell you what happens. When you become perimenopausal, you stop ovulating. So that means progesterone goes down. That means estrogen is dominant. It doesn't mean that it's high. It just means it's dominant. It doesn't have enough progesterone. Estrogen stores fat. Progesterone burns fat for energy. So if you have fat storage without fat burning, you're going to gain weight. So estrogen dominance drives more fat storage, right? Now, fat tissue also makes estrogen. Aromatization means that you can take one hormone like androstenedione and testosterone, okay? And you can, in the fat tissue, it will change it into estrogen. So even though you don't have ovaries, you don't have a uterus, you may be 75 years old. If you have fat tissue, that fat tissue is making estrogen, and estrogen makes more fat tissue. That's this loop we're talking about. All right. So that's why it seems you have no control, because you don't have progesterone burning fat, estrogen storing it. And then what happens is the stored fat starts to make more estrogen. So you got to add something to this. You've got to add the progesterone to stop that cycle. And we've seen it. The only reason why we got into weight loss is we started balancing hormones, and patients said, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I lost 10 pounds. This is what can happen. So now the fat storage increases nervous system exhaustion and it deepens. One, you're upset because you're like, oh, I'm failing at this. I'm still gaining weight. I'm working out at the gym. So now that's more stress. That more stress, it makes the progesterone decline even more. And so now it just keeps building and building and building. So that's what I want you to understand. Now, if you look in the blood, because this is all happening in the tissue, you don't see it. You don't see it. So the standard blood test is not going to give you this information. So now because you did the wrong test, you're going to add on a hormone that you're already making too much of. And that's why everybody is gaining the 20 pounds once they get the estrogen. They did the wrong test. They gave the person the wrong hormones. Now they're gaining weight that they can't get off. I told the patient yesterday, until we fix your hormones, you cannot diet and exercise your way past a hormone problem. So please get that in your head. All right. Estrogen causes you to gain weight. People stop being surprised when that happens, because it will always happen, because that's what estrogen does. You need to understand that hormones have a characteristic effect. Estrogen causes growth. I don't care where it is. Growth of fibroids, growth of breasts, it causes growth. Progesterone balances out that growth so that the growth does not overgrow. That's what cancer is. It's the overgrowth of tissue. All right. It's uncontrolled growth. So that's why estrogen is a carcinogenic. It can be a carcinogenic when it's not balanced appropriately. All right. I spent a lot of time on that because I want people to understand. They say, oh, the doctor told me I have no hormones because I had a hysterectomy. You do have hormones. You have to just look in the right place. Rebel, I hope I gotten that. That's a major point right here because I see women at the gym and I say, goodness gracious, they have been in this gym as long as I have 2, 3 years, and they look exactly the same. And I'm like, wow, I wish I could tell them to do a saliva test and they could get their hormones straight and then they could get more out of their gym membership. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make this practical for people, Rebel.
Oh, yes. I believe that if people would just understand, first of all, they know themselves. And if they're
Yeah.
questioning what they're being told, seek other advice. Listen to what Dr. Taylor's telling you. If you're seeing the same doctor over and over again and they're just doing nothing for you,
Yeah.
seek out the saliva test with Dr. Taylor.
Yeah. And so it's just like I say, you can't keep doing the same thing and thinking something different is going to happen. If you go to another doctor and they do the same blood test, you're going to get the same answer because they're doing the wrong test. And say it with me. That's why you got the wrong hormones. Wrong test, wrong hormones. You do the right test, you'll get the right answers to give you the right hormones to give you the outcome you expect. I wouldn't be on here saying this so boldly if I hadn't been doing this for 25 years and I see the outcome and the different outcome from when people walk in my door than when they walk out after they get clarity that they really understand what is going on with them. So I know this works. I've seen it over and over again. I did a TikTok video and said it's almost getting boring. Is that I know what's wrong with you when you walk in because those are the people who walk in my door. We do the testing so I can prove it to you that what I'm telling you is true for you. That because you can't do a one size fits all, you just can't. All right, so we're almost about to go to break. So we're going to end on this. End before we go to a break. PCOS, man, myth number 7. If one more person tells me that they have PCOS, I'm going to scream because PCOS is not a diagnosis. It is a group of symptoms that get put together that always seem to happen together. And they call it a syndrome in medicine because they act like they don't know what the cause is. So let's go through this. All right. It is not a diagnosis. It's a label. It's not an explanation because I ask patients, tell me what PCOS is, and they have no idea. And I explained this on last week. PCOS means poly, lot, cystic, cyst, and cyst comes, people you've had ovarian cysts. Cyst come, and that's preparing for ovulation. The cysts make estrogen to grow the tissue back that you just shed, and then it waits to see if you're going to ovulate. If you have a lot of cysts, those cysts make estrogen. And so when you have a lot of them, you're going to have a lot of estrogen. Even if one ovulates, you're going to be out of balance because you made more estrogen than that one egg that ovulated could make in progesterone. So now what happens? You have too much estrogen. What happens? This is what happens. You start to store fat. When you store fat, you are going to become insulin resistant. All right. When you're insulin resistant, what happens is you begin to make testosterone for 2 reasons. One, progesterone is absent, so your body starts to make testosterone to try and fill in for the deficit. So then once you start making testosterone, that's when you get the chin hair. And then that's also when your hair starts to thin. And because you're insulin resistant, that's why you're taking the metformin. But the metformin is helping the insulin resistance, but the real problem is you have all these cysts making estrogen and not enough progesterone. So when you go back, what the real problem is, you just need progesterone. That stops you from storing fat. That stops testosterone from coming in to try and save the day. You take progesterone. And most of these women are being diagnosed with PCOS in their teens. And that's not PCOS. That's called puberty. Your body is trying to figure out how to make cysts, how to ovulate. So the 2 times people have this is in puberty and perimenopause. And that's when your body is trying to figure out how to get into the reproductive stage, and when your body's trying to get out of the reproductive stage. That's when a lot of the imbalances start. And that's when you can make too many cysts and not ovulate. So PCOS is a natural rhythm. It's not a disease. It's not a diagnosis. It is a progesterone deficiency due to the fact that you're not ovulating. That's all it is. So stop saying you have PCOS. You have a progesterone deficiency that can be corrected. But if I can treat you symptom by symptom, that's a lot more drugs I can sell you. Okay. But if I fix the root cause, and I will tell you, if you go one step further, a lot of the reason why you're not ovulating is due to stress. And young people are under a lot of stress. They're worried about their jobs and their future, and the world is changing faster than they can change. So, stress is always usually the initiator of all of this. But stop saying you have PCOS. That is another one of my crusades is stop this myth that having a progesterone deficiency is some kind of unexplained disease. All right, so it's time for a break. But those are my two big ones. You don't need progesterone if you don't have a uterus. That's a myth. PCOS is not an explanation. It is a progesterone deficiency that can be corrected. And the longer you leave it uncorrected, the more problems you're going to end up having. All right, so let's go to break.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, so we're back. We are getting rid of the myths that have caused confusion for years. And if you're just joining us, I'm going to go back so I make sure we get. So let's go. So myth number one: menopause means you have no estrogen. That is a myth. If you look in the wrong place, you're not going to see it. You look in the right place, you'll see that they're making estrogen even after menopause from that fat tissue. Blood testing does not tell you the full story. It can tell you the full story about hormones that are water soluble, like thyroid hormone and just your basic routine labs, but it doesn't tell you the story about fat soluble hormones that come from cholesterol, which is all of your sex hormones. Women do not need testosterone for energy. Testosterone may be needed for muscle mass if they're losing muscle mass, but what is going on when you don't have enough energy is that your cortisol rhythm is off. Cortisol gives you a lot of energy during the day, and it should go down at night so you can go to sleep. Most people that we see who have hormone issues and energy issues, they have a tired and wired pattern where they're tired during the day but wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and can't go to sleep. I've had patients who have these symptoms and they think they have a brain tumor because of their insomnia, but it's really just a cortisol pattern disruption. So when you're confused, you always think the worst. So I'm trying to keep you from thinking the worst and helping you to understand what is going on. You don't need progesterone if you don't have a uterus. That is a myth. You need progesterone for your brain, for your breast, you need your brain for your cardiovascular system. You need your progesterone for your cardiovascular system. So you need progesterone for more than just taking care of the uterus. I don't care if you don't have a uterus or you do. If you have too much estrogen that you find by doing the right test, you need progesterone to balance it out, because that prevents you from having fibroids. It can prevent, or it can decrease your risk of breast cancer. It can get rid of fibrocystic breast. It can help diminish endometriosis, because all of those are abnormal growths caused by the growth hormone, which is estrogen. Hot flashes are not only about estrogen. I was taught early on in my career at Emory that, hey, menopause is an estrogen deficiency problem. It's not. It's an estrogen deficiency problem when you look in the blood, but if you look in the saliva and you see what the fat tissue is making that we just talked about, is that you will see that there's still hormones there. You just have to look in the right place. Now, PCOS is not a diagnosis, it's an explanation, and it's really an explanation of progesterone deficiency caused by not ovulating. The polycyst, what the PC means, polycyst, you have a lot of cysts making estrogen and you don't have enough of them ovulating, making progesterone. So you have a estrogen progesterone imbalance problem. You don't have PCOS. And this can be corrected. And women will go for 20, 30 years saying, I have PCOS, and they don't know how to correct it. You correct it by using progesterone, getting your cortisol rhythm corrected. That's it. That's all you need to do. So now, here's the problem. We think every symptom needs a separate diagnosis. That's what we were told. Okay, so you have anxiety. Oh, let's give you a antidepressant and an anti-anxiolytic. You have sleep problems. Let's give you what is it? Xanax. What's this? Lunesta. Let's give you that. We give you antidepressant, we give you anti-anxiety, we give you weight loss drugs, we give you things for your libido, we send you to the dermatologist because you have hair loss, we send you to the hematologist because you have excessive bleeding, we send you to the oncologist because you have a positive sighting on your mammogram. So we send you to all these things. So then we give you medications for all of these, and these medications have their own side effects. And then when you combine all these medications, nobody knows what will happen when you combine all these medications together. They just add on to more side effects. So that's what I call the cost of hormone confusion. It's a lot of cost in these medications. It's a lot of cost in these supplements. It's a lot of cost in the surgeries that you will have because you don't know that your hormones are out of balance. That the fibroid surgery you had, it was caused by a hormone imbalance. The hysterectomy you had was more than likely caused by a hormone imbalance. The breast biopsy you had was more than likely caused by a hormone imbalance. So all of these surgeries, all of these medications, all of these doctor's appointments, all of them dwindle down to the wrong test, wrong hormones. Okay? I hope you see the picture here. Rebel, can you see the picture that all of these problems that these women have, they all boil down to the wrong test. They got the wrong hormones. They may have gotten the wrong medications, too many medications. All of this boils down to all of this confusion, wrong test, wrong hormones.
Seems
Am
like
I
the wrong
making
test
that
is
clear?
causing more issues because they're throwing things at it and nothing's really sticking to the wall here. But all of those things that they're throwing at the wall have side effects that are making things worse.
Exactly. And this is what I tell you, you'll hear about all of the side effects of a certain medication. That's a certain medication on its own. So no one can do an experiment to say what is the outcome or what happens if I combine an antidepressant with a weight loss drug with a drug for my hair. Nobody knows how all three of those or all four of those different drugs will interact. You just have to throw it, like you said, throw it against the wall and see what happens. And a lot of times, what will happen is that one drug has a side effect, but when you combine it with another drug, now it amplifies it or it has a different side effect. And that's why so many people can take the same drugs and they get different outcomes because they're combining it with other things and they have different lifestyles. They eat differently, they move differently. So all of these will have a different effect. That's why there's no such thing as one size fits all. And that's what we're trying to put everybody in a box of one size fits all. And there's one thing, and I know I can talk about this forever, but there's one thing that I learned from John Maxwell, who is an excellent speaker. He said, you want what you say to be simple but deep. He said, but these things are simple, but they're shallow. They're simple. They're easy to remember. Oh, you don't need progesterone if you don't have a uterus. They're easy to remember, but they're shallow. They're myths. But wrong test, wrong hormones. That's simple, but it's very deep because it covers everything that we're talking about. If you get the right test, you will get the right hormones, and then you will get the outcome that you're looking for. So that's simple,
Here's one
but it's
thing.
deep. Yes.
Ladies,
Yeah.
think about it this way. If you ever bought something that said one size fits all, did it really fit you? Did it really fit you? Okay? Think about it like that, and
Yeah.
then you'll
Yeah.
get it. One size does not fit all.
That's a good one. I have to steal that from you. Have you ever gotten something where it's one size fits all and it really fit? Of course not, because everybody's body shape is different. Okay. Different heights, different widths, different everything. So, yeah, you're exactly right. That's a good one. All right. So, I'm almost done. This is myth number 9. Okay. If your doctor says everything is normal, nothing is wrong. That is a myth, because you can do that whole list of the routine labs. I don't know how much you pay for. People told me that they paid $1,000 for blood work, and they still were confused about their hormones. They were still told they were normal. All right. So, common problem in standard testing: incomplete testing panels, symptom management over root cause, fragmented, siloed medicine, ignored cortisol dysfunction. Yeah, there's so many things that are missed based on blood testing. And again, it just propagates the confusion. So look, if nothing else, when they do that routine blood panel, say don't test for estrogen and progesterone, don't test for that. Save your money and purchase the saliva test. And there's links. If you go to all my links, everything is there, and you can look and you can get a saliva test. I actually have it there where you can get a saliva test. It gets sent to you. I will look at the results, give you a video review, and tell you what you need. The other thing you can do is take our root cause assessment, so that you can, that's free, and it will tell you what the root cause is, and it'll also lead you to the next steps. So all of that is in all my links, because I want this to be available to you guys. All right, so here's myth number 10. A lot of doctors will tell you, oh, look, hey, you're menopausal, you're getting older. And here's the problem. See, I'm 65 years old, so I know that, hey, life is not over as you get older. But look, there's a lot of younger doctors out there, and they're in their 30s and 40s. So they see a 50 and 60-year-old, they're like, oh, what are you complaining about? Your life's almost over, right? You're 30 years older than me. No, and that's what I thought when I was 30. Hey, when you're 60, oh, you're over the hill. Just go to the old folks home and sit down. No, that's not what's going on now. I see all these high performing women, 55, 60 years old, and they're head of accounting firms. They're basketball coaches. They're all of these people who are in their 50s, and they're trying to keep going. They want to still perform highly. I did a whole podcast on the physiology of high performance. If you want to maintain that high performance, you have to take care of yourself. You have to get your hormones right. You have to get your cortisol rhythm right, because that's been beaten down by life over 55 years. But you can recover, you can rebuild that. So menopause does not mean your best years are over. Really, when you get your hormones corrected, you get more emotionally clear. Now, sometimes I think that causes some of the great divorce we see, is that women start to look at themselves. They're clearer. They're not worried about reproduction. The kids are older, so they finally get to look at themselves. So many report greater emotional intelligence and self awareness after menopause. So I see women who at 50 and 55, they're like, I'm going to go back to school. I spent my whole life taking care of everybody else. I've got to do something for myself. Sometimes, if the man does not understand that, that can cause problems. The woman thinks I've grown apart. We've grown apart. No, you have just gone through a change. And if your husband or spouse understands that, he'll support you and understand it, and it won't be a conflict. And we are trying our best to save relationships by helping people balance their hormones. So a lot of people come spiritually awake. A deepened sense of purpose and connection often emerges in this phase. And I will tell you, as you get older, I tell you I'm 65, you start to think about death and life beyond. So you start to get more spiritual. Am I connected? Do I feel like I have a connection? Does my life go on after this? And you start to have a purpose. You're freed from earlier roles. Women often step into their most authentic expression. Yes, they're who were really born to be. Now, part of the phases of life is being a mother and being a wife and being a child of older parents. So all of those things are part of it. But most the other time, and this is kind of my purpose, is to spread this ageless blueprint and to spread hormone confusion and hormone clarity. So I got kind of a rebirth as I got older. And so a lot of people do that. And I want to help more people do it by getting their hormones balanced, get their cortisol right. So now they have the energy to pursue the things that they want to do later in life. And then women seem to get more confident. Menopause can become a transformation, not a collapse. A lot of women transform into another aspect of their life. Maybe they're doing something creative, artistic that they really had bottled up into them in them, and they try to express it. Sometimes they take on a hobby of knitting or whatever, and it helps to calm them and relax them and help them to kind of look at their inner self and kind of figure out who they really are. So all of those things can happen. Menopause can be beautiful, but it can also be miserable if you do the wrong test and you get the wrong hormones. All right. So this is what creates confusion. Wrong test, wrong hormones. Have I said that enough? I hope I have. Then you get the wrong pattern. What creates clarity? The right test, the right hormones, and the right pattern. And again, I want to tell you the cost of confusion. What I just told you about how you can get a saliva test is $395. Most people have spent thousands of dollars with doctors and appointments and medications, and the cost of clarity is minuscule compared to the cost of confusion. And see, your body is not betraying you. Your body is communicating with you. When you get symptoms, your body is not trying to kill you. It's trying to send you a message that something is wrong. Can you please correct it? And the longer you ignore it, the more problems you're going to have. So the quicker you can do the right test, the quicker you can get the right hormones, the quicker you're going to be able to stop or reverse anything that the wrong test and the wrong hormones have done for you or done to you. All right. So that's it. So two things. You can take the root cause assessment. It's going to be in all the links in all the links that you see here. Take the root cause assessment. You can visit the link in the description below. This episode, we're going to have this also, the root cause assessment in the links in the description. We'll have the complete root cause assessment and you can receive clarity. Now, it's going to give you some clarity. It may say, hey, here are some things you can do for relief. We have a progesterone cream. We have some products called Adrenacare and Serene Calm that is for cortisol disruption. So even taking the root cause assessment, it'll lead you toward the point where you can get some relief. Now, when you get some relief, now you can think about, now I can think clearly. Let me do this saliva test and end this once and for all. Let me end this confusion that I've been dealing with for 10 years. Let me end it now. Let me get this saliva test. Let Dr. Taylor review it. Let him tell me exactly where I need to do, where I need to go, and let's end hormone confusion. And this is it. Once you end hormone confusion for yourself, I need you to end it for someone else. This is what we call see one, do one, teach one. You see these myths, all right? You do what's appropriate to reverse whatever the beliefs in these myths cause, and then you go and teach it to someone else, all right? So that's our goal here. I think we got like 30 minutes left. So Rebel, that's my story and I'm sticking with it. Is that if we could eliminate these myths, it would end a whole lot of hormone confusion. All right. So what do you think, Rebel? We're good?
I believe that everybody's on the right track listening to Dr. Taylor. And I believe everyone needs to do the saliva test if you think you are having issues.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think you're having issues, if you want to stay on track, get the
Exactly.
test.
That's what I'm telling you. You don't wait till you have a stroke to get your blood pressure checked. Okay. You want to know your blood pressure before any of this stuff happens. You want to know what your hormones are before any of these things can happen, before you end up having a hysterectomy or fibroid surgery. Hey, and if you don't want it, then tell your daughter who's 15, 20, okay? If they know this information, they're going to be able to prevent some of the things you're dealing with at 40 and 50. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody needs to know this information, and everybody needs to tell somebody else. All right, so we'll see you next week. I actually have a guest next week. She is a Amazon best-selling author, and we're going to send out some promotion about this. All right, so we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.